Here we go.
There we go. This is often for the diehards, for the YouTube diehards. The 2 minutes before the pod that don't actually make the final version is the filter in, as we call it, is when like the real shit happens.
We're breaking the
Absolutely.
ice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The pregame show here.
The pregame show. Yeah.
That's right.
It's when if we have any stories, like I was thinking this today. Because my back hurts and my hip hurts and my knee hurts. And I like everything about getting older, except like I like everything. Me as a person, like myself way better at like 46 than I did at 30. But physically, the bounce back, like recovery in every way is fucking way worse. And I like cold weather, but every winter my body like recoils a little bit more. And I sort of understand now why people move to like warm weather things when they get old. Yeah.
LA is pretty nice.
LA is nice.
Your typical co-host moved out there how long ago? 10 years?
He was there when we started
Mike?
Yeah, he was there when we started the pod. So he went to school in like central New York or whatever, but it must have been right after school. So 10 years. It's probably been 10 years since he's been out there. My brother's out there. My brother lives in West Hollywood, works for Disney. The weather out there is fantastic.
I heard it's been raining a lot though right now.
It has been raining a whole lot. The other night was one of those felt like the East Coast. Just the hard raindrops that pound against the roof and make a lot of noise. It was like that for a handful of hours. Felt like home.
Scary.
Yeah, but it is nice, like in the middle of winter when the low is like 52 or something. You know?
Oh yeah.
Like like the weather. Like I think people underestimate how like quality of life relates to weather. Like nice weather. Kind of makes it feel like fucking vacation a little bit all the time. Yeah. You know, easier to wake up.
It was like that for me. When I moved to LA back in 2018, the weather was just like a little cherry on top. I was like, oh yeah, it's a nice bonus, but I'm going for lifestyle and career. Get away from home, get that experience, be there for career reasons. But then you find out the weather, all through winter, not this winter, but typically it's gorgeous. And what that does for your mood, being able to go outside in a light jacket in middle of December and January, it makes a bigger difference than you can ever imagine.
Weather talk. That's why people come early.
Oh,
all right, we ready to rock? CJ? This is where CJ disappears. The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Sign up for DraftKings Sportsbook by using promo code RTRS. And brought to you by Big Barker Therapeutic Dog Beds. Get yours at bigbarker.com/Ricky. Briggs Auction. Is it really Briggs Auction, this one? It is. The official auction of the process at briggsauction.com, and Stateside Urban Craft Vodka, the official sponsor of the Corner 3 newsletter with Zoe. Get it at statesidevodka.com. On the show today, the Sixers are fully healthy, but Mike not here this week. Man, Jaden Springer played in everything. Sitting in for Mike on this pod is the banned Kevin O'Connor of The Ringer. A reminder, he is banned. He is simply filling in for Mike today. Before we get going, a couple things. First of all, we have 2 new shirts available. They are both available for, I think, 9 more days. If you can go to the link in this podcast or just go to the t-shirt link at rightstoRickySanchez.com. One of them is the Coach Mike shirt, with the 1-2-1 zone diagram on it. And the other one is the I've always believed in Tobias Harris shirt. They will be pre-sale for 2 weeks and then gone for good. So 1 more week. I did mention Stateside Urban Craft Vodka, one of our sponsors. So we all love the Surfside iced tea and vodka, which is the best version of that. Just perfectly sweet. But they announced on their social, there's going to be a peach tea and vodka. And I have the inside information that is coming out next week. It'll only be available on the website. And there are 2 other flavors coming, which is huge news. So go to statesidevodka.com. You got to be 21 to drink it. Without any further ado, Amos and the chef.
Larry, sweetie, the man is here.
Say the name. I say the name. I say the name. We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We say the name. Say the name. We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We were right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. Say the name.
Say the name. I say the name. I say the name. Say the name.
Likes Tricky Sanchez forever.
Welcome to the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast. I'm Spike Eskin, along with our second fill-in for Mike, the band, Kevin O'Connor of The Ringer. Welcome, Kevin.
What's going on, Spike? How are you doing today? I really appreciate you bringing me on despite being banned. I'm just filling in. That's all. I'm still banned.
Yeah, still bad. Just filling in for the 10-year co-host of the pod, but still just filling in. I feel like you have been banned and unbanned and rebanned a few different times, actually, on the pod. I was actually thinking the other day, you were right after basketball shut down for COVID. You were on the pod like a week into it. We had a ton of guests, but you were the first COVID guest on the Ricky. KOC was. I think you were unbanned at the time.
I was unbanned at the time, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
That was one of the streaks where I was. First time I was banned was why?
I don't
Do you remember?
No.
But-
No. Most recently, we'll get into it, is the Jokic Embiid thing, which a lot of people have suffered some bans at the expense of. But welcome. I appreciate you coming on. Of course, Kevin's podcasts are the Mismatch and the Ringer Draft Show, and you appear on like every other pod on the friggin' Ringer network. You're on Bill's pod and Ryan's pod and all that. And when does the draft guide go live? You do the draft guide every year, of course.
I believe it's going to go live on Monday or Tuesday, the 17th. I think that's the day where it's going to go live.
Cool. I appreciate it. Well, great work over there. Of course, I don't hear any of it because I wouldn't listen to a band guy. I can't do that, but of course, I feel like we should jump. Like, obviously, the thing that you were banned for is your Jokic vote for MVP last year. I feel like we should right off the top do the Embiid versus Jokic thing. Can we do it right here? Just settle it, and then that we can get over Sixer stuff. Okay, just a few different like ways into this. The first thing is in retrospect, do you regret voting for Jokic over Embiid last year?
No, I don't regret it at all. I mean, it was a difficult vote. It was extremely difficult between him, Jokic, Embiid, and Giannis. Those three guys were, I thought, clearly on their own level. And between them, I thought, Jokic just got the slight edge. And we'll see how it plays out this season as well, with Jokic right back in there. It'll be intriguing to see how much voters end up feeling quote unquote voter fatigue. I don't think that should be a factor. It should be a total non-factor. If anybody's feeling fatigue for having Embiid second multiple years in a row or Jokic multiple years in a row winning, I think that's crap. Like, it shouldn't even factor into the equation here. It's about who is best for the individual season.
Well, don't you think, though, for MVP, there are a lot of factors that go into it? I don't know. I enjoy the entire narrative arc of everything. And I sort of feel like if you win 2 in a row, but you don't win a championship or anything, or you don't get to the finals or something, I do feel like you get a okay, you're in the penalty box until you prove that otherwise, right? Like, don't you think that is like, it's not specifically laid out in the criteria, but the criteria is sort of vague anyway. And the storyline part of it, I think, I don't know, 3 in a row for a guy that hasn't like even been to the finals feels like sort of fucking crazy, right? I mean, a little bit.
I mean, you're right. From when we look back at the MVP winners,
right,
10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, if Embiid doesn't have one, it would be disappointing that that's not captured in the MVP vote. If we see Jokic win 3 in a row, if that happens and he doesn't make a single finals and he never wins one in his entire career, people are going to look back and say, what happened with that guy? How did he win these MVPs? And you can look year by year to understand why. Like last year, not having Michael Porter Jr. or Jamal Murray did factor into it, having a weaker roster. Just like for Embiid, Ben Simmons quitting on the team, them not getting Harden, then getting Harden, and he's not the same guy. That factored into him being, number 2 on most people's boards last year. So I think, it's disappointing whether these guys win a championship or not. The award is for the regular season. And I think you can have fault with, that vague criteria that you're talking about that the NBA laid out. But ultimately, I think that's on the NBA to kind of clarify on more so like what exactly does this award mean? But it does mean something different to everybody. Remember, wasn't it a couple of years ago Ramona Shelburne said like she factors in narrative and like people kind of jumped her on Twitter for that?
Yeah, but Ramona is in Embiid's pocket, which is probably a reason why she said that. I like the fact that it's vague. To be quite honest with you, I actually think it's more fun that it's a little vague because I think the more you specify it and the more you can quantify it with numbers, I think it makes it like less fun, right? I think that's why big shots are fun. Like all of that thing. I guess. Well, okay, move on to the next question though. One season, if you could have one guy or the other guy to win a championship, who would you pick? Let's take injury stuff out of it. Let's make pretend they are both capable of playing 70 regular season games in the full
injuries playoff. Off, like
injuries
in
off.
Madden or 2K, like they're off. Everybody's totally
Correct.
healthy.
Yeah,
Jokic.
Oh, see, all right. Well, so this is where I become disappointed. Can I give you my Embiid over Jokic? Well, yes,
sure.
It's my podcast, right? Okay, yeah. So I'll give you my Embiid over Jokic thing. I think it boils down to two and obviously Nikola Jokic is really good. Obvious, 100%. He's going to be a Hall of Famer, all those things. Yes. It boils down to two things. One, if you play center in the NBA and you're not really good at defense, you're hurting your team. That's my first thing. And Embiid, debatably, I won't say for sure he is the best defensive center in the NBA, but he is in the conversation as one of the most effective defensive centers in the NBA. So that's my first thing. The second thing is, which is related to the first thing, is that Embiid is way better at defense compared to Jokic than Jokic is to Embiid on offense. And like, while Jokic is clearly better than Embiid offensively, Embiid led the league in scoring last year, is going to be close to it this year, is obviously a fantastic offensive player, even though he's not Jokic. But I don't think you can say that defensively about Jokic. And the fact that they play center makes that even more important. So I have a hard time thinking about if my goal is to win a championship that year and my center is not a positive on defense, how am I even doing that and how am I picking that guy?
I think to your point, Spike, like if you're building a team out, if you're drafting from every single player, let's say you have the first pick in the draft, the third pick in the entire NBA redraft, and you're choosing between Jokic and Embiid for that selection. Maybe you're feeling like you can win more with having a guard or a wing be your primary initiator from the perimeter rather than Jokic as your center.
Sure.
I think that's the way you're viewing it. Like when it comes to building out your theoretical roster, which team you need to win with. With Denver, though, like with Jokic, there's just so many different types of ways that they can beat you on offense. I think, in a vacuum, yes, you're right that Jokic is better than Embiid, but it's not like as big of a difference as Embiid is better than Jokic on defense. But in terms of a team construct, the way in which Jokic can be utilized, he can be used like Joel Embiid as a dominant post scorer, pick and pops, attack and closeouts, interior finishing, but he can also be dribble handoffs. He can bring the ball up the floor. He can run pick and roll for you. He can be used every single way on offense. And that's, to me, the separating skill between those two. When he's become, at least, he's not, Jokic is by no means like a stopper on defense, but when he's, going full throttle 100%, he's at least above average. He's at that level already. And I think you got to give him that when it comes to comparing these two. You shake your head like.
Do you think if you had no numbers to look at and you just watched Jokic in an important game defensively, you would say to yourself, that guy is above average?
Yeah.
And that's horseshit.
Yes.
That's bullshit.
The numbers, I don't even look at. I don't care about defensive numbers. Defensive numbers are so tough to look at because it's so results based. Not process based, like where a player should be. It's based on like whether a player makes or misses oftentimes, not what they did or what the scheme is or who missed a help opportunity, who screwed up, fighting over a screen. Like defense is about 5, not 1.
Unless you're center. I mean, I agree with you. I agree with you wholeheartedly offensively. But I to your point, I think that the point is that you could find a player to replace, obviously not to the level he does it, but all the creation that Jokic does, you can find at other positions. The theoretically, what Embiid does defensively, you cannot find at other positions. Like Aaron Gordon is a fantastic player, right? Like athletic, you could use him as a center, like defensively, all of those things. The problem is that Jokic is also on the floor. So if Aaron Gordon is doing that thing that you want the center to do, then Jokic is out defending somebody on the perimeter or being hid on a non-factor offensively. And I don't feel like you should be doing that with your center. It's like a bad way to try to win a championship.
Sure. I think it's all about philosophy and the way you want to build your team. And you love James Harden, clearly. Building with a perimeter creator. Clearly, you love Harden,
me.
Huh?
Yeah, you know me. That's just fucking dying to fucking build with James Harden. I will end it with this. So you think the Nuggets... You think the Nuggets theoretically could win a championship with Jokic playing center?
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you would give that team a better chance of winning a championship than... See, you're right on the vacuum thing, but if you're starting at zero and both guys are playing 70 games, I actually like knowing what we know about the importance of rim protection in the NBA. I think it's a no-brainer that you take Embiid in knowing what we know about how important rim protection is in the NBA.
I just think you underrate Jokic at his best on defense. I think that's underrated. He's not he was bad at one point in his career. He was very bad at one point in his career on defense, but he's gotten progressively better year in, year out to at least become average. And on a lot of nights above average and good positionally. And not to mention, he's also an elite rebounder too. Not that Embiid isn't. I'm just saying, overall, if you're factoring that into defense, yeah.
I'm just not buying it. Well, here's the good thing: Jokic was able to keep it in the final week of the season. He was able to keep his team out of the play-in, which is really admirable. I'm glad they made the playoffs last year, and hopefully he's able to do that again this year. We'll wrap. You're still banned. I'm sorry, you didn't get yourself out of it on that one. Not that you tried very hard.
No.
Right after this, we'll talk about this year's Sixers. We'll talk about that with KOC. Before that, DraftKings Sportsbook is there's no Vegas Mike, so I can't do Vegas Mike. I'll play oh wait, that's not the Vegas Mike song. Where's the Vegas Mike song? There we go. We don't have Vegas Mike. We have to wait for that to come back. But DraftKings Sportsbook is presenting sponsor of the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast. Of course, they're an official sports betting partner of the NBA. But the playoffs start this weekend. And same game parlays. I actually lost the same game parlay with the Sixers the other day. I was going to do one with the Giants game. So what if I take Giants money line? I'll take Saquon Barkley as anytime touchdown scorer. I will take where's Daniel Jones yardage? Daniel Jones passing yards. I'm going to go under 249. Where does that put me? I got to take it off that one. There we go. It puts me at that would be plus 425. You can create your own same game parlay with NFL, NBA, and right now, new customers using the code RTRS bet $5 and get $200 in free bets instantly with DraftKings Sportsbook. The best thing about DraftKings is the app. It's easy to put money in, easy to take money out. Well, best thing is actually the sponsor of Ricky. Second best thing is that the app is good. Download the app now. Sign up with code RTRS. New customers bet $5 on the NBA. Get $200 in free bets instantly. It's code RTRS, only at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. All right. This year's Sixers. I look at what you and specifically the only two real national basketball writers that I consume are you and Zach, because I think the job is more all consuming than people like realize. I guess for me, I watch one team. It takes out so much of my day that the idea of being, and I feel like by watching, I've said this a bunch of times, by watching one team and every game, you do see a lot. You see every other team at least twice. You see a lot of teams 3 and 4 times. I feel like I have a good sense of other teams, but you need to have an even better sense of like all of that. Before we get into the Sixers, like what is the process of doing that? And I assume you have to prioritize, like, you know, the 8 teams that have no chance of making the playoffs whatsoever. You have to, I guess, put down in the watch list. Like, how do you stay up on everything to feel like you can talk intelligently about that?
Well, I mean, it's definitely tough. I think for me, like over the years of the Ringer, I've tried to be good at scheduling, knowing that there's going to be stretches of the season where I don't watch a team because it's impossible because I'm doing draft stuff on top of that. Like we're launching the draft guide on Tuesday with 30 profiles, 50 are done already. Just, you know, we're not launching with all 50 of them. So it's
Simmons
like a lot
working you like a dog, man. What the fuck is going on?
I mean, I want to be though. I love doing
right.
it. It's a lot of fun to do, and I enjoy what I do. I think when it comes to balancing out, it's about knowing what team have I not watched in a while. How much of this game do I need to watch? Do I need to watch the entire game? Do I need to watch it live? Do I need to watch it like on a 45-minute cut on Synergy, or should I just watch the fourth quarter? Or maybe sometimes it's like scrolling box scores in the morning and seeing how a guy performed and then clicking through and watching all of his possessions. You know, so instead of having to sit for 2.5 hours to watching a game, then I can watch the players or the stretches of the game over a more condensed amount of time. So it's about being smart and knowing when to watch and how to invest your time. But I mean, I definitely go through stretches where there's teams where I wouldn't feel comfortable talking about them.
So the Sixers, like I think like right now I think everybody knows how to talk about a lot of different teams, right? Everybody knows how to talk about the Celtics. Pre-Durant injury, I felt like people were getting into a spot where they were ready to start talking about the Nets as like a championship contender, like seriously. Everybody knows how to talk about the Bucks, even though they've been weird this season, you know? Even though the Warriors are 500, everybody knows how to talk about them. Everybody knows how to talk about the Nuggets. Sixers are so weird, man. I don't think anybody really talks about them as a serious title contender, but you're looking at it and they're a game behind the Bucks, they're a game and a half behind the Nets. Like since Harden's come back, I think they're 13-4. The efficiency numbers on offense and defense like look good, you know, like especially when the guys are playing. So why is it that those things exist, yet they aren't really considered a championship contender? And what have you thought of them when they've been healthy-ish this year?
Well, they should be considered a championship contender.
You think so? Are you a Harden guy?
I'm definitely a Harden guy. I've been a Harden guy for many years, going back to Houston. So that plays into it here with my belief in Harden and the way he's kind of evolved his game to be, you know, a passer first, scorer second. He's not averaging 35 anymore, but the burst is closer to what it was before. You know, last season was not good. Health is definitely a concern if he has more hamstring injuries or any type of injury that nags. But I mean, going back to last season, ever since Harden was acquired, the Harden Embiid pick and roll is amongst the league's most efficient in all of basketball. So, I mean, when I was in Philadelphia before the season and did that feature I did on Daryl Morey, I interviewed both Harden and Embiid, and some of that stuff didn't get into it. Like maybe we'll use it for some time down the line, but Like they talked about, how it's about figuring out how to defeat defenses when they start switching, developing the chemistry there, not just when Embiid's pick and popping or rolling down the lane. So that's going to be the question, come playoff time if they're facing the Bucks or the Celtics and they're switching every single screen in the half court and taking away their best tool together. So, I mean, I think with Philadelphia,
by the way, their best tool. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Their best tool, but it doesn't seem like Embiid loves doing it. I guess it's like a weird thing. Is everybody throws the pick and roll numbers, but when you watch them, you can watch an entire game and feel like you see it 3 times. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Embiid's not a roll guy, but even pick and pop, like all that, it just feels like they don't do it that much, which is strange. I don't know if the numbers say something differently, but it doesn't feel like you see it a lot. It doesn't feel like, when a team has a bread and butter action, like, oh, it's crunch time, they're going to go to this. It doesn't feel like they go to that, which is weird.
I mean, statistically, they do it, near the most in the NBA with pick and roll duos. Like Chris Paul and Ayton, I think going back to last season, are number 1. Harden and Embiid are right up there in terms of the per game number of times they do it. However, I mean, considering, like you said, you watch these games and sometimes with Embiid, it's not like he sets that screen and he's rolling hard to the basket like a Jaron Allen, a Rudy Gobert type. Like that doesn't happen. That's not his style when it comes to rolling to the basket. So, I mean, for those guys, it's just different. It's different than what Harden had with Clint Capella or Montrezl Harrell in Houston and now in Philadelphia again. So it's a different flavor with those two. I mean, that's something that statistically this year, it's also not as potent as it was last year, despite Harden being better individually than he was last year. But I think overall, though, like Maxi's improvement, the upside that he has, the level that he can play at, the PJ Tucker variable with him as a spot up shooter, as a versatile defender, Tobias Harris playing his role, they have the pieces. I just feel like there's a couple of there's some missing wings. I mean, like a better Matisse Thybulle type, who can add some shooting off the bench. There's some missing pieces inside that championship formula for Philadelphia, and they don't have a lot of picks or assets to go get it though.
If you could add one thing, it would be wing guy. It would be like 3-and-D wing guy. Is that's
but who? But who?
Right,
and
right,
for
right,
what? Right. That's the issue with like the salaries. You could combine Korkmaz with Matisse Thybulle and they can deal one pick, correct? Of 2029?
29. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's so far away. Like I like, what can you really get?
And they really have to decide, and they've time. Well, they have 3 weeks to decide from a trade perspective. Morey has to decide if and after the season they'll have another pick they can trade. They can't, right? Because they wouldn't be able to trade if they can trade 29. They can't trade 30. So after this year, they would still only have the 1 first-round pick. He has to, and you get into a world where if you don't think they're going to win a championship, they lose in the second round or something like that, and you think I don't think there's a chance that Harden walks, to be quite honest with you. But like if you think that's possible, maybe you need that pick to go along in a Tobias Harris trade somewhere, or like maybe there's a lot of math he's got to do, and there's a lot of guessing he's going to have to do without a lot of room for error at this point. I don't think that's really entirely his fault. I think it's mostly not Morey's fault, because most of that trading happened beforehand, or it happened when he had to throw a pick away to get rid of Horford, or he had to throw a pick away to get rid of Richardson and get Seth, like all these things he had to do. He had the Simmons trade, that might be his fault. Is just not a lot of room for error. You know what I mean? If you want to win a championship.
What's the temperature of Sixers fans when it comes to, the big picture place of the franchise right now, with everything we're talking about, with the lack of picks, the lack of flexibility, but the current, really good state of the franchise? Like, it's a great team. I mean, how are Sixers fans feeling?
I would say this is the 10th season we've done it. This is the weirdest year we've had in terms of gut. Like, I don't think anybody, I think most people who are saying they think they have a chance are sort of like talking themselves into it. I think there's been like enough, there's been enough disappointments, and then watching what Harden did in Miami against Miami last year, like that elimination game. And this isn't hyperbole. This isn't anti-Harden guy stuff. Like putting that aside, that game was so bad. Like that game was so bad. If you watch that game, it's so hard to shake. So I think reserved and optimistic is sort of how everyone feels. I think everyone like out loud will go, wow, Harden got another triple doubles, leading the league in assists. There's Joel again, leading the league in scoring or second league scoring or whatever. Wow, Maxi's better. The Sixers fans have turned on PJ Tucker pretty hard. It's always whoever plays that position, whether it's Danny Green or Robert Covington or whoever, like they turn on that guy. But I don't think anybody trusts it. If I'm to be honest, I don't think anybody trusts it.
And understandably so, considering the way things ended last year, and then like the Embiid comments in that weird Jake Fisher interview a couple weeks back or a month back, whenever it was, about they boom me or trade me. Like,
yeah,
that's you talking about.
Yeah, it's weird,
strange.
Man. Yeah.
And
then
Doc Rivers, if they fall short, like who knows how the coaching staff feels right now. Doc they could move on from Doc after the season.
Yeah, Sixers fans hate Doc too, and that didn't.
Well, understandably so. He's not a good coach.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing, right? It's amazing. Him being named one of the 10 best coaches of all time is amazing, right? I mean, it's
15,
like
what is it? A top 15.
15, yeah. It's like they did 15 just to include him or something. It's fucking crazy.
Try top 50, maybe.
Yeah, it's really fucking crazy. Were you just a minor Sixers things? Were you a Jaden Springer guy pre-draft as a draft guy?
Solid.
Do you remember?
Yeah.
Okay.
I liked him. I wouldn't call myself like a Jaden Springer guy, but yeah, I like Jaden Springer. He had a good game the other night.
Yeah, Mike has been begging for Jaden Springer minutes for the 2 years he's been here. Somebody tweeted the other day he's the only until he passed the number in the game last night, he was the only first round pick of that draft who hadn't played 100 minutes in the NBA yet so far. Yeah.
That I did not know that with that stat that his numbers were. I knew he wasn't playing much, but I didn't know he was the only one. Yeah, he's a good player. I mean, I liked him at Tennessee. He's a energizer on defense. Plays hard. He can pass.
You watch him in the G League, and it looks like he looks like really projecty when you see him in the G League, and they're not really like at the point where, and he doesn't. And I think the biggest problem for them in getting him NBA minutes is he doesn't have one skill that sticks out that they can use. Like he doesn't shoot particularly well. He's not a particularly good ball handler. He's not big, right? Like, so it's not like he can throw him in there and hope he rebounds. Like there's nothing he can do, I think, to get himself on the court. And his G League stuff is iffy so far. I think that's the biggest problem.
Yeah. I mean, he was such a shaky shooter at Tennessee. Like the numbers were fine, but he took like forever to unleash the shot. It was like such a slow release, and he's 6'3", like you're saying. What's missing from Philadelphia? Maybe another wing, not another guard. They're fine there. I wonder if maybe like if he gets some minutes, could his perhaps value increase a bit, where he feels like a second first round draft pick and an offer for another team. I wonder if Philly can feed him enough minutes over the next month or so and maybe throw him in a deal.
I wouldn't count on it.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
Yeah.
It's a little pipe dream. You never know. Maybe he continues excelling.
We're going to play a couple of voicemails. We'll get to it. We got another Q-tip. There's been a groundswell on the Ricky about like Q-tip discourse and who uses Q-tips. And we had a call on the last pod. We'll get to that. But we also have a voicemail we have to play you about the Ringer Top 100 that I think I hinted to you. So I want to play that to you. We'll do that right after I talk about Big Barker dog beds. I was actually just looking at my dog Rebel laying on his Big Barker. He's got two. So we have a Big Barker in our bedroom and we have a Big Barker in the guest room. The important thing about the Big Barker dog bed is that it is different than other dog beds in that the Big Barker dog bed keeps your dog healthier. I know that sounds crazy. I know it does. But PennVet did a study on the Big Barker dog bed and found differences in improvement in joint function and reduction in pain severity and all those things. The difference between Big Barker and other dog beds is that it's a real bed. It supports your dog's joints and it makes your dog like as your dog ages. When I I was talking in the lead up about my joints getting achy as I get older. The same thing happens to your dog, and Big Barker prevents it. Go to bigbarker.com/Ricky. Bigbarker.com/Ricky. You get the Big Barker dog bed, but if you go to that link, you also get 2 processed pup patches. You can put one of them on the dog bed, the other one, do whatever you want. You can put both of them on the dog bed. You don't have to put any of them on the dog bed. So many of our listeners have bought Big Barker dog beds, and we get great reviews every time. Joint pain and arthritis in dogs is a real thing. Dogs over 50 pounds, up to 80% of them develop arthritis as they age. The Big Barker is not only a better bed, it looks nice. It comes in a bunch of different colors. It'll look nice, whether you have it in the living room, whether you have it in the bedroom, and every size. I keep talking about bigger dogs. They do have giant ones for big dogs. Rebel's 40 pounds, sleeps on a large. But even if you have a tiny dog, there's the Barker Jr. Once again, engineered by experts to keep your dog youthful for longer and brings older dogs back to their best. 10-year warranty. The foam doesn't flatten or they replace it for free. 1 year at-home trial. Try it for a full year. If you don't like it, they'll give you a full refund and pay for shipping. It's handmade in the USA. CJ, I think I'm going to have to ask you to bark. Can't ask KOC to bark. Big Barker dog beds.
Woof.
There we go. Welcome to the Ricky, KOC. You can leave a voicemail for the Ricky at 833-LICKFACE. That is 833-LICKFACE. I felt like I had to play you this one. Now, the context of this, KOC, is several pods ago, maybe a month ago, we mentioned we were going to talk about the Ringer 100 in the intro. We didn't get to it. Then we tried it again. We didn't get to it. So it has become a mainstay in that it's always in the intro, but we never get to it. So we did get a voicemail about the Ringer 100. Oh man, CJ, you didn't tell me that I forgot to connect the Bluetooth. Fuck, man. I had so many good pods in a row where I made sure I was doing it correctly. Hang on, then we'll go. Sorry, KFC. This is very unprofessional. No one at Spotify wouldn't screw this up. All right, here we go. Oh, motherfucker.
So even though you promised, I think it's okay to not talk about it.
All right, last try. Here we go.
Hey, guys. Gabe from Bryn Mawr. First time, long time. So even though you promised, I think it's okay to not talk about the Sixers positions on the Ringer 100 because it's a garbage list, especially since the cadre of fake smart guys at the Ringer didn't even bother to do the bare minimum and agree on ranking criteria by starting it, so it's not really even objective in the slightest. But I would be more interested if you talked about some of the player write-ups. Because some friends and I were talking, and we thought that there's a real chance that they actually might be all AI generated. The language is weird, references a bunch of traits that the players don't really have, talks a lot about nonsense like how they move on the court. And now I'm thinking it's possible that the content was done just by like data mining language from social media or sites like ESPN and having AI spit out the result based on player sentiments. So I guess the question is, can somebody get Ben Dietrich back in touch with the guy who did the Colangelo burner analysis to look at like the past 2 years of Ringer articles and see if any of them were actually done by people? And then non-basketball question, feels like CJ hasn't been visually as present on the podcast the past couple months. So I'm wondering, did he get in trouble at work due to something on the pod, or did Tony T's questions rattle him a bit and he's still recovering? Thanks.
I'll answer the second one first. Hey guys, there has been no specific CJ, you didn't get in trouble for something on the pod. That is CJ shaking his head no. So no, CJ didn't get in trouble with work. CJ's not in trouble. CJ, he had a stretch, especially during the Color Star thing where he was on camera a lot. I don't think that there's any difference now. KOC, these are obviously really serious accusations that the Ringer Top 100 was not only organized by fake smart guys, but written by artificial intelligence. Your response to that?
I mean, I quite enjoyed taking the time and writing those on my own.
You wrote them?
I wrote mine. I wrote my 25. I did not read all other 75. I can only speak for myself.
Oh my God.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've skimmed through and definitely read some of them. I read it like I read those. It's like that's Jay Kyle, man, with his jokes. That's Rob Mahoney with his analogies. That's Pina's analysis. So I mean, those guys all did great work on those. And the Sixers blurbs, I'm just looking through right now as I see this now. I wrote the Embiid one.
Okay.
I believe Rob Mahoney wrote the Harden one, and then Tyrese Maxey, also written by me, and then Tobias Harris just cracked the top 100, written by Mahoney.
Is it possible that
not
you
AI
are
generated?
Is it possible that you, as an entire existence, are AI generated?
I wish I could help the help of AI. If Chat GPT ever gets to the point that it can actually assist me, I would love the help.
I saw you tweet today, and I've mentioned on the pod a couple of times. You tweeted today, and I think the number was that there's 55 players averaging 20 points or more. And I had mentioned on the pod a couple of times that there are 7 players averaging 30 or more. At least there were a couple of weeks ago. And I went through the last 40 years, and the most I could ever find in a season was 3. And most seasons were 2 or 1. And there are several seasons where there were 0 players averaging 30. What do you think is going on?
I think it's a mixture of things. I mean, the take foul rule change definitely plays into it.
I hadn't thought of that.
You know, it's teams as well. I think, feeding some of these guys just more shots. And perhaps I think defense has plateaued at this point. I've talked with a number of different people. Like, I've asked that same question to some coaches and executives, like, why is this happening? And a lot of them think, well, where's the innovation on defense? What are defenses doing to actually stop this right now? Everybody knows what everybody's doing. Offenses, and particularly the game's best scorers, it's not a guessing game. They know it's going to be happening. They know how they're going to be defended. So I think that's really the key thing. It's this, convergence of a rule change with the brilliant talent the league has right now, the depth of scorers, the amount of perimeter shooters there are, and also a lack of defensive innovation right now too. All of that happening all at once is playing into the amount of high volume scorers we have and great efficient scorers we have too.
Do you think it's interesting you say like the lack of innovation? I wonder like why that is. It feels like if there was a breakthrough somewhere, like where somebody figured something out. But like you're right. Like when you're watching games, there's more zone. It feels like there's more zone now than there's ever been. But it does feel like that the teams shoot too well for that to be, particularly tenable during playoffs. It doesn't feel like anyone's going to do that for an extended period of time during the playoffs, or you're not going to beat a championship contender really going zone, right? Like maybe you'll get out of the first or second round, but you're not going to beat anyone important. It really hit me when I looked at Embiid's numbers, right? Embiid's averaging like 33.7 or something like that points and 10 rebounds. And you look at that, and how could you be averaging 33.7 points and 10 rebounds and legitimately not be a top 5 MVP candidate? But you could make that argument pretty soundly that he's not, right? I think you could make the argument that he is, but you could definitely make the argument that he's not. And I just wonder if this is like good or not good. It's good in the NFL. Scoring's really good in the NFL. I wonder if this much is good in the NBA. If it getting this easy is good for the league.
I'm with you. I mean, I love watching basketball right now. I think it's a aesthetically pleasing sport, but at the same time, I'm like you saying that makes me think about that Kirk Goldsberry book a couple of years ago, Sprawl Ball, where he kind of, laid that out saying, hey, the NBA needs to be worried about what is the most pleasing game to watch.
Yeah.
Like what leads to people turning on their TVs and wanting to stick with games? Is it these high scoring affairs where some teams are shooting over 33%, 40% of their total shots from behind the arc on a night in, night out basis? Or is it, some lower scoring defensive battles where it's aggressive and teams are, like you bring back hand checking? How would that change the complexion of the game? Obviously, there'd be less scoring. Obviously, things would be harder on Stephen Curry to get wide open, coming around screens and pick and rolls and all that. But maybe that leads to more viewers that have left the game over the years who think, oh yeah, it's all flopping. It's all this easy scoring. Nobody plays defense. Maybe you win. Maybe like instead of ignoring those fans, you should actually try to start appealing to those fans to,
Instead of
restore
making fun
NBA
of them.
ratings, which are falling apart.
Yeah, instead of making fun of them, right? Like, yeah,
Yeah.
ratings are going down and attendance is going down and all those things. And like maybe they're not wrong, Now, I lived through the 90s, and like the mid and late 90s in the NBA it was not an aesthetically pleasing game, but there must be, I guess I just feel like there must be a middle ground between the two. And I think that the other thing is like, you watch an all-star game and they're just trying to like get through it, right? And I wonder if to some extent the regular season has been devalued to an extent where you're right, skill-wise they're much better and strategy-wise they're much better, but I wonder if just like the incentive to compete on defense is not what it was, and we've devalued the regular season like too much. And I think that's probably part of it too.
Sure. And I think that's got to be a component of it. Like whether it's an individual or collective basis on defense, whether it's from a game preparation standpoint, that's what the NFL has, right? Like the NFL, every single game matters. It's a full week of game planning for that one opponent, and it's a must-win game. Every game is. Whereas for the NBA, you're not changing your game plans at all, if anything, like over the course of a multi-week, multi-month period. So I think with the NBA, that's one of the reasons why Adam Silver wants to install the in-season tournament. Like it or not, agree with the plan or not, their intention is to improve the value of the regular season, where you're creating something that matters in December to give meaning to a segment of the season that last year, Dallas, Luka was fat in December. Boston sucked. And those two teams made the, finals for Boston and the West finals for Dallas. Like what happens October to December really doesn't matter at all. Even what happens in January doesn't really matter that too much at all. Even the Lakers, they start off 2-10?
Yeah.
And, they're now just a game back from the 6th seed. It's a long season and you have a lot of time to make up for. So maybe the solution is much more dramatic for the NBA. And that means, fewer games.
I actually think it's less complicated that Adam Silver is making it. I don't think it's a midseason tournament. I think the NBA is still, I would say, the sport in which home court matters the most. Like more than football, certainly more than baseball, certainly more than hockey. I would just say, like, I would try this and see what happens. Hey, next year in the playoffs, in a 7-game series, the home team gets 5 in a 7-game series. And just like let like that's a huge advantage. A huge advantage if the road team is only getting game 2 and game 6, you might not even see game 6. Like watch teams that are like this. You're looking at the standings in the Eastern Conference, right? And you have basically the Celtics and the Cavs, the top 6 seeds, Celtics, Nets, Bucks, Sixers, Cavs, all separate, top 5 seeds separated by 3.5 games. I don't know, man. If the Celtics and the Bucks, you look at them who have already won a championship and might be coasting a little bit. I know Middleton's hurt, but all of a sudden, if you're looking at the prospect of a first round 4-5 series and you have only 2 home games, I don't know. I know financially that you would have to work that out because it would hurt the road team too much. But even that, then the edict from above would be like finish in the top 4, man. Finish in the top 2. Yeah,
for sure. I'm in favor of that. I mean, like in past years, I've argued for letting the top 4 seeds choose their first round opponent. And, I think something like that is an extra incentive. Like, let's say Philadelphia ends up getting the 1 seed, right? Like they get the first pick of their first round opponent. Like if on the last day of the regular season, a team suffers an injury to their star player, you're choosing that team. Or if you're choosing the young team that slipped into the playoffs, for the NBA, maybe that starts something that emerges into a rivalry over the course of time. And like, that's what you need is like real animosity and games that matter. And what you're proposing makes total sense to me with 5 games instead of 4 for home court advantage. Or even like choosing the type of schedule. I mean, this is really tough to work out, but instead of 2-3-2 or 2-2-1-1-1, maybe you could, put 3 in front, 3 home games in front, and then 2 on the road, and then, 2 on the back, something like that at home.
Yep. Yeah. I think they have to do something, because I hate being this guy. I hate being like the game's getting less popular, but like if it's getting less popular, it means less people like it. And if less people like it, it means less people enjoy it. It's just not good for the sport, right? Like,
and it's a great sport. Like, people should be.
yeah.
There's so many great players right now.
Yeah. And I love basketball so much. I love basketball more than any other sport. It's not even like close for me. And it's a bummer to see people enjoying it less. And it's a bummer for me, really, like the old man take, but like, the devaluing the regular season for the playoffs is funny to me, because nobody wins the title. Like, you know what I mean? Like NBA, more than any other sport, fewer teams win the title. I would bet over time. You don't see three-peats in any other sport. And there's very little randomness that goes in historically that goes into the NBA playoffs about who's going to win the title. It's not like baseball or football where a bottom seed is going to win. So like, to make the only thing matter, winning a title, is basically like dismissing 95% of what people are consuming basketball for. Most people aren't getting a title. They're just watching regular season basketball games, It's a bummer. I just think it's a bummer.
Well, they said, I mean, they're going to do the in-season tournament. So
yeah.
what I'd love to see is you win a trophy for best regular season record, whether it's in each conference or just best overall in the league. That way you can have a team that potentially could win the in-season tournament and best season record, and all the incentives that you're talking about, choosing your opponent, getting 5 home games, or whatever it is, right? Like whatever the incentive is. And if you someday win the NBA finals, that could be like the NBA's version of a triple crown, where early season matters with the in-season, the entire season matters with best regular season record and all the incentives. And then the NBA finals still is what it is.
We've a couple more things with KOC. I have to troll him about Tom Brady, and then bring up Q-tips. Before that, Briggs Auction is a sponsor of the Ricky, and they are, now that the new year has started, they are back doing it. Briggs Auction is a 4-generation owned and operated auction house right there in Delaware County. The reason I like, so Briggs Auction does a state auction. So right now, the one that's live now, and then there's another one going live next week. The one that's live now is the Estate Sporting Library. So it's all, Tobias would love this, like tens and tens and tens of lots of classic books, which is awesome. But it's mostly, and then next week, there's the estate wine and spirits auction. So if you're a wine guy or something like that, you'll love that. Mostly it's these estate auctions, which have everything from collectibles, like baseball cards, sporting collectibles, music collectibles, to art. I've bought a bunch of art things. I've bought a bunch of collectible things. I bought a couple of Elvis things. Fucking love Elvis. And the best thing about the Briggs Auction is that every week there's something new, and every week you can go in there and scroll and look for something. As well with the estate auctions too, there's furniture, like classic furniture you're not going to get anywhere else. You go to buy new furniture now, they're going to tell you, yeah, because the supply chain is going to take you 6 months. You get it from Briggs Auction, not at all. Download the app. Briggs Auction app is in the App Store or Google Play, or just go to briggsauction.com. I check in every Monday or Tuesday or so, spend 25 minutes looking through. Bidding is fun. Losing kind of sucks, but bidding is fun. Took me a few months to win something. briggsauction.com. Pickup is easy by appointment during the week or open on Saturdays. Or if you get something big, they can work with you on a shipper. And if you went down your basement and found all the shit that you feel like you could sell, or you're downsizing, they can work on it for you. Inquiries go to info@briggsauction.com. Once again, briggsauction.com. I was reminding you the other day when you were on during the pandemic, our Brady argument stemmed from my longstanding take that rather than getting rid of Jimmy G, the Patriots should have kept Jimmy G and traded Tom Brady for a haul, which I still think, even though you say it doesn't make you mad anymore, I feel like it probably does. You said something the other day. So you grew up in the Boston area, grew up Patriots fan, right?
Yep.
But right now, you would consider yourself, if it was Tom Brady versus the Patriots, you would cheer for Tom Brady?
Yeah, I'd cheer for Tom Brady.
Why is that?
I mean, my love for Boston sports has just changed over the years. I mean, I used to watch every single Patriots game with my dad. I used to watch every single Celtics game with my dad. And with the Celtics over the years, I get into sports media in 2013. That fandom started to really decline each year, and it's not that it happened like I wanted it to happen. I continued rooting for the team. It just declined over the years, and I think not to get too sad and emotional here. Definitely, like in the recent years prior to my dad passing away in 2020, my fandom was still like I knew there was a special place in my heart for the Celtics, but I wasn't rooting for the team.
Yeah.
With him passing away, it was like there's nothing connecting my love for the team. I have love for past teams. Like I still feel something for Leon Poe and Eddie House and those great Celtics teams, and the role players in the late 2000s and KG and Paul Pierce and teams in the early 2000s, Eric Williams, Walter McCarty, all those guys. I still feel something for those teams, but the team today, I mean, whether it's just being in part of sports media for now 10 years and not having the relationship with the team, including the Patriots, with my dad as well, that's definitely been a big factor in really the death of the relationship with the Celtics and the Patriots, which is, bittersweet in a lot of ways. I wish I could feel something.
It's funny, the sports media thing, people don't buy, right? Like I'll say I'll say something about you. Zach Lowe, obviously from the same area and was a Celtics fan as well. And I'll say something about you guys not being fans anymore. And specifically, I know Philadelphia people will be like, nah, they're really still fans. And people who don't do the job every day, I think can't conceive of a world in which you consume sports in that different way. Do you know what I mean? Like and God bless them.
There's no way I could have been able to conceive it years ago either.
Yeah.
Even when I first got into this, I thought, I'll always be a Celtics fan. I'll always be a hardcore Celtics fan. Like I used to be the type of fan that said I would never date a Lakers fan or a Yankees fan. I was that type, right? And now it's just not even a factor. It's not even an equation. I don't know. It definitely changed a lot over the years, kind of against my will. Even after being hired by the Ringer, like really the last year that I felt like I was rooting for the Celtics was that Isaiah Thomas year in 2016-17, which was my first year with the Ringer. But even then, my fandom was, so little compared to what it was before when I was posting on Facebook on a nightly basis about Celtics games on, all these Facebook statuses in all caps, F LeBron and everything like that. It's just that was gone by that point.
F LeBron is still fun. I haven't listened to it yet. I think Vernon did a whole LeBron thing the other day that apparently, well, I gotta listen to that. It makes me think about Bill Simmons, like still, I can't tell if he's acting or not, but he isn't. He still cares that much.
I mean,
it's wild.
I've been to games with him, and I've had this thought in my mind where it's like he's so into the game. Like we were at a Kings Clippers game, and he's so into it, and it's just like he still has that love for the sport and for the Celtics. Like it's all real with him, and unless he's always on. But it's really amazing just to be around him and see that true fandom come out that he still has that.
The back to the Brady thing, it does feel like though, and I accept every reason you gave, and every reason I do, and I remember when your father passed away, and you wrote great stuff about it, and like that connection between a father and a son and the teams they cheer for. 100% I get it. It does seem like there is something about Brady though. Like I work with a guy named Zach Gelb. Zach does nights at CBS Sports Radio, and Zach like this Patriots fan, but like if I made him pick, I think he would pick Brady. It is like a wild thing. There hasn't been very many players that have won as much as he has, so I guess it's hard to compare. I guess you could say Jordan, but Jordan had such a short post Bulls career that it didn't really matter. It's just wild. The Brady part of it to me is wild.
I mean, think about it like this. I'm 32 years old right now, and I'll turn 33 later this year.
Okay.
Tom Brady has been in my life since I was 11. Before I was a teenager, before I was ever in high school, before any of that. Like Tom Brady was part of my life. Like I became a Patriots fan at really
This is awful.
the perfect time.
It
See,
is.
he's been a part of Patriots fans' lives and NFL fans' lives for over 2 decades, over all the changes in all of our personal lives and everything that's evolved over the course of time. So as somebody that has watched every single one of his games with the Patriots, as somebody who like got home on time, made it a priority on Sundays, Mondays, or Thursdays, whatever night he was playing, who would delay watching Breaking Bad finales because the Patriots were playing, like he was part of that for you. And so I think with Tom Brady, like if I'm power ranking some of the happiest moments in my entire life, like he'd be part of that, just like any sports fan can relate to. And Embiid's probably like that for many Sixers fans. You know, Allen Iverson like that for many Sixers fans. You know, Steph Curry for Warriors fans. Like the moments shared with the people you care about, or whether you're alone watching a game. Sometimes your happiest moments involve sports, and so I think that plays into it. Where I'm always going to root for. I'm like still rooting for the Patriots. I want them to do well, but at the same time, Tom Brady has just taken over that, and I root for him to win his 8th Super Bowl and to play until he's 50 and to win multiple more. Like he should go to another team and keep trying to win. He still has it. The listenership just cut.
I can't decide whether I respect the fact that he's like ruined his marriage over continuing to play football or like I'm like gassed by it, but like it is something. He is like, oh, you're gonna leave? Okay, well, I'm still gonna play, you know.
I totally respect it.
Yeah.
Go tell me.
Before we wrap up with a 2 Q-tip calls that I want to play you, because I need to get your Q-tip takes. You're a big music guy. After I got this job, feel like I got so busy and I have barely played guitar over the last year. I'm wondering, A, do you still find time for music? Is there anything good that you've listened to lately? And B, are you still playing?
I have not played much guitar at all this season, which
sucks,
is
right?
really a shame. I see those gorgeous guitars behind you. What is that? Jaguar, the Telecaster behind you right there.
Yeah, the Jaguar is nice. The Telecaster's like really nice, actually. Yeah,
that nice clean tone, and it's just like you see it on the wall. You want to play it. You know, I got my guitars in the other room, and I don't have much time to play them.
Yeah.
But you know, you can create the time. You can even just take it 5-10 minutes. I should probably integrate that in. Even with music, Spike. Like I feel like I've been doing best of the year playlists since 2018 or something like that.
Yeah.
This year my playlist had, you know, less than half the amount of songs it's had in past years, and that's purely because I just haven't listened to as much new music.
I have forced myself in that way, and I do the Carl Landry Record Club, the music podcast we do has forced me to like listen to music every week, and because it gives me different stuff to listen to, the Spotify suggestions I get are like more varied. So and like it's honestly, when I run in the morning, it's one of the most important things, is at least for 35 or 40 minutes. I have music on and it forces me to listen to it.
You like the new album or earlier last year, Big Thief?
I haven't listened to Big Thief. I haven't listened to it. Is it good?
Yeah, it's a good album. I like that one.
I'll check it out.
That one comes to mind as something new from this past year.
I feel like
Mount Joy, of course.
Philly
band.
Mount Joy, friend of the Ricky.
Yep.
CJ was on stage with Mount Joy.
Wow.
Yeah,
CJ was up there. Wow, for their Philly show.
Well, yeah. Well, Matt
the one a couple months ago.
Yeah. So like,
I was there. I was in the crowd.
So last year, there's Mount Joy.
Hey.
So last year, Matt was supposed to put CJ on a list and didn't. And I think we banned, I don't know if we banned him, but he eventually he came back. He this was great. He offered his apologies. He asked if CJ wanted to come on stage during, what song was it, CJ? I can't remember what song it was. Was it do you remember what song you were on stage for? Was it Lemon something? What's the
Lemon Tree?
Lemon Tree, was it Lemon Tree?
From the new album, Orange Blood, which is really good start to finish.
Yeah, I think that's the song it was. And CJ not only said like, he said, yeah, I'd love to come on stage, but I'd also like to bring all my friends.
Yeah,
And Matt
yeah.
said yes, and he put him up on stage. So.
Yeah, I saw them 2 nights in New York last summer, and then that Philly show. It was a great couple of nights. Loved it.
They've blown up. Like, it's crazy to see how big they've gotten over the last couple of years. I'm very happy for them.
Yeah,
I'm very happy. So so a couple pods ago, somebody asked in email whether we use Q-tips to clean our ears, and I said no, as I've learned that you're not supposed to. Like, you think about, I mentioned this earlier today, you mentioned a cannon. They don't use the like plunger thing to pull the ball out of the cannon. They use it to push it in. So if you're using Q-tips, you're really pushing the wax in. And Mike said that he used Q-tips. Now, first of all, KOC, are you a Q-tip guy for your ears?
Never. They make it worse.
There you go. So we got this voicemail last time, and then I want to play for you the follow-up. So we got this one last pod.
Mike, this is the public service call encouraging you to stop shoving those Q-tips into your ears. True story. A number of years ago, I had what I thought was an ear infection and had a fever. I thought it was no big deal. Turns out my fever spikes to 104 degrees. I'm incoherent, stumbling around my house. They take me to the hospital. They put me in a medically induced coma to give me 2 weeks of IV antibiotics because I suddenly had bacterial meningitis. You know why? Because I shoved a Q-tip into my ear like a young Mike Levin, and the tip of it broke off in my ear without me knowing it. And having that shit in my body caused me to almost die. So, Michael, stop doing that. Or at the very least, if you're going to put the Q-tip in your ear, when you take it out, admire it like you do when you take a poo. Look at it, make sure the tip's still there so it doesn't kill you. All right? This is Frank. Love you guys. Can't believe this is the first thing I've called about, but at least it wasn't one of those wipe from the front, wipe from the back calls.
Okay.
Later.
So we get that call. We played it on the pod the other day. Adam Lefkoe was on. We talked about it. We debated it, blah, blah, blah. But then today we got a new voicemail from somebody else. 833, yes. Maybe it's Warren. You'll find out. 833 Lick Face is where you leave a voicemail.
Spike, Coach Mike, CJ, first time, long time. Just calling in response to the last episode. There was a caller that talked about how a Q-tip in his ear almost killed him. And that reminds me of this past year where pretty much every time I would take a shower, I felt like I'd eat water in my ears. So I was shaking up and down like Kramer in an airplane. And it was manageable. It would kind of go away after a few minutes. But then fast forward to August, I'm on vacation in the Outer Banks with my girlfriend and her family. Going to the ocean for a swim and come out and cannot hear at all out of my left ear. And I am shaking and punching the shit out of that thing. Nothing is working. And even to the point where a family friend put some eardrops in my ear from her daughter who was used to swim like 3 years ago. So this stuff is probably expired anyway. But as soon as he put those eardrops in my ear, it felt like he put a blowtorch in my ear and my brain was on fire. I was in so much pain that I was just laying in bed miserably as everyone else was partying in the house. So I find an ENT doctor on the island, drive there about an hour, probably listen to you guys on full blast on the way there. And within 3 minutes of me being there, the doctor, she pulled out an entire head of a Q-tip. I have no idea how I didn't know that was in there. And it felt like I could hear for the first time. It was probably akin to how an orgasm would feel in my brain. It was amazing. But yeah, I go back and everyone's making fun of me. How do you not know you have a Q-tip in your ear? What a bozo. You know what? Yeah, I am probably a bozo, but I'm glad I'm not like that guy. He almost died. So anyone who's making fun of him or me, like Adam Lefkoe, go fuck yourselves. But all good. It's the Anthony Mellon, the best trade the Sixers have made in the last 10 years. Thanks.
Right.
Love you guys.
So the question is, it seems like people, so when we had Adam on earlier in the week and we listened to that initial one, our biggest thing was, how do you lose the head of a Q-tip in your ear and not notice it?
No kidding.
But it seems like it's like a thing. Like this guy also lost a Q-tip in his ear.
In my pre-enlightened stage of my life, when I used to use Q-tips when I was like 12,
yeah,
I'd pull it out and I'd take a look, see how much came out,
Yeah.
if any came out, right?
Yeah.
And I would always look, and then sometimes it'd be clean about, oh, I got it all. But that's not the best way to get it out. I mean, it's having a doctor do it. They scrape it out, or like it's the fluid they put in. They kind of, I don't know,
softens
whatever.
it.
Yeah, exactly, and then they get it out. There's much more productive ways to remove it.
The advice I've given is there's stuff called Debrox, which is like $8 at CVS, which will you drop it in there, it softens it, and then if you have a hard water pressure, you can use shower water, let that shoot in there, warm water, or there's a device called an elephant ear, which is basically like a water pump thing. Squeeze, and it pushes it out. Or go to a doctor or something. Don't lose a fucking Q-tip head.
Just get it done. If you have the doctor check, if you get your annual physical, which you should be doing. When you're getting your physical, to say, hey, I feel like I got some wax in my ears. Can you check? And then they'll tell you, oh yeah, your left ear is, get a ton of wax, and then they'll just take it out for you.
It's their job. Don't feel bad about it. It's their job.
It's natural.
KOC.
I'm due as well. I get it. I can tell I've had my right ear's been blocked recently. I have not stuck a Q-tip in there. I've just been dealing with it until I go to the doctor in a month.
I'm going next week. I'm going to the doctor. Get taken care of. I appreciate your time, man. Thank you for coming on, even though you're banned. And we did get, we got a lot of people that were excited you coming on. I did share with you a DM. Somebody said, fuck no, that motherfucker's banned or something like that. So the mismatch is you and Chris Vernon. The writing is on the Ringer. The draft show's going on now. Yeah. Draft show.
Yep.
I'm not a draft guy.
NBA draft show with me and Jay Calaman. Yep. New podcast feed with that.
And then you pop up everywhere else. Well, even though you say you enjoy it, Simmons is working you like a dog, but it's I'm glad you're doing well, man. And I appreciate you co-hosting in lieu of Mike.
Appreciate you, Spike. Thank you for having me on.
Yep, you got it. You can we'll wrap up. You're good. Thank you, sir. There he goes. The great Kevin O'Connor, the great band Kevin O'Connor. Mike returns this weekend, Sunday, right? We're doing pod Sunday morning. Is that it? I think he said 10 a.m., not 11 a.m. I think that was this weekend.
Oh, cool.
I think it was. Yeah. So thank you to KOC. Thank you to Adam Lefko for filling in. Good week of fill-ins, I think we had this week. Very strong.
I think so.
Very strong. And we did. You know what? Should we play this before we go? I know it's late to ask you. Are you able to get the Lefko video from TNT? It's on our Twitter and on our Instagram. Can you pull it? So Adam Lefko, when he was hosting, Adam Lefko hosts Tuesday nights on the NBA on TNT, and he swore that last night he would say the name when they were playing Sixers highlights. It did happen, I think, during the Sixers game. It was halftime of the Thunder Heat game. But he did say the name. He did. I give him credit. Now, he did make one mistake, which we'll get to. So here we go.
To the former members of the team. We want to take a look at this. Shout out to the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast, the best Sixers show, and they are getting Joel Embiid back after missing 3 games. Harden loses handle.
There we go. So, of course, the real issue there, as he said, it is the best Sixers show. It's the only
fatal flaw. Fatal flaw.
Yeah, nice try. You're gonna have to do it again, Adam. Sorry. We'll talk to you this weekend. Are you down with TTP?
Yeah, lick face.